Hey everyone, welcome back. Tonight I'm going to be making a really yummy dish that I kind of like stole from a restaurant that I like to go to. They have this like super yummy bowl that kind of had all of these flavors mixed together in it. And I wanted to come home and try and recreate it. So I've come up with my own version of it. And it's a pulled pork kimchi kale bowl is what I call it. And there's lots of variety in the fixings that you can put in it. But it's like super, super hearty and super filling. And it just has like all the different flavors and textures of things that it's just going to be really satisfying. So I hope that you'll enjoy. We're just going to focus on that one meal today. Just kind of keep it simple so that you can recreate this. And I hope that you'll give it a try and let me know what you think. So we are going to go ahead and start with a couple of the stovetop items. We're not going to be using the oven today, but we are going to need, like I said, we're going to do some quinoa. And then I'm also going to grab the pork. I purchased a pork that was actually already in a package marinated. Let me grab it. I'll show you while I tell you about it. So I love to keep things super simple and easy when we're doing food prep. So I found this like pre-marinated, pre-cooked. I think actually you just actually pull this out and boil it in some boiling water. It comes in a bag and then it shreds up really easily to put in these bowls. So I'm going to grab 2 pots and start measuring out some water for those. Okay, so for the pork, I'm not going to really need to measure anything. I'm just going to go ahead and start um, some water in a pretty large pot. Show you what this looks like. So this is how it comes. It kind of is already in the sauce. There's a big hunk of meat in there. And we're just going to throw this bag into the boiling water and we're going to let it cook. I think it's for 15 minutes. Yeah, takes about 15 minutes and then it shreds apart really nice and easy and it looks really delicious in the cold. Okay, so you should be able to find a similar product. Doesn't necessarily need to be the same brand, just something that's kind of a barbecued pork is what we're looking for. So I'm going to throw that in my water and toss it over here onto the stove and just put that on high to get that boiling. And then I'm going to grab a measuring cup. I'm not going to make a ton of quinoa. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest is with these bowls, if you're trying to keep them a little bit more calorie conscious, we can do a lot more of kind of the leafy greens and the vegetables, things that I consider kind of freebies in my calorie tally, my loose calorie tally that I do. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more hearty and you're looking to maybe use a few more calories, you can do it more as like a quinoa base to your bowl and then just kind of add some kale on top of that. So just going to kind of depend on what you're eating towards and what your goals are. So I'm just going to make a little bit of the quinoa because I'm just going to kind of use it as topping on my kale base. So I'm going to there's instructions on the bag and every quinoa is a little bit different. Some you boil kind of like pasta and drain the water off. And some you cook a little bit more like rice. So you measure it out pretty exactly and then the water just gets absorbed. So this one is calling for 1 cup of quinoa with 2 cups of water that I'm going to measure out and then I'm going to get that boiling. So to flavor up my quinoa, I like to use a little bit of chicken stock or chicken bouillon. So I'm going to add a teaspoon of that in with this as well. Just so that it gives a little bit of flavor to it. I find it's a little bit bland. It's one of those things that kind of needs a little bit of flavor thrown into it in order for it to be really good. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw 1 teaspoon in there, and then we'll measure out 2 cups of water. On the stove to boil as well, and once that boils, we'll cover it over and we'll watch our time. Okay, so let me just clear some things off. So while I'm waiting for that to do its thing on the stove, I'm going to pull out my ingredients in my bowls and I'm going to start to assemble everything. And you can get really creative. I'm going to show you some of the fixings that I like to use on this, but you can get really creative with whatever it is that you like. So first I'm going to grab out of the pantry. I like to throw some sweetness into this. There is some sweetness from the barbecue sauce on the pulled pork, but I like to add some Mandarin Oranges. Pineapple is another option that you could add. And I'm also going to grab some water chestnuts. These are already pre-sliced. I love water chestnuts. I love the crunch that they add to things and just kind of the texture that they bring. So from the fridge, I'm going to grab a couple more things. I'm going to grab some red onion. I'm going to grab some carrots and some radishes. I have some cucumbers, a little bit of cilantro that's pre-chopped from another recipe that I made earlier. I'm going to grab my kale, and then I'm also going to grab my kimchi. Okay, and this is a kimchi. This brand is Wild Grind, it's called. And I just stumbled across this. If you are in Canada, they carry this at my Safeway. You're welcome to use any sort of kimchi any brand that you like. This is one that I'm really a fan of, so I'll actually go back to that store and do my shopping there just so that I can keep stocked up on my kimchi. But it's a really yummy one. It's a little bit spicy, but it just is really really good and goes well in this recipe. Okay, so I'm going to grab my containers. I think I'm going to make 4 of everything today. So I'm just going to grab 4 of those containers. And then while I'm down here, when I'm pre-making stuff like this, I feel like it's important to separate the things that we want to have hot from the things that we're going to have cold. So I'm going to grab 4 containers as well that I'm going to put my pulled pork into. I'm not going to separate out the quinoa. Quinoa can go hot or cold. If you want your quinoa to be hot, you could divide your container and put half quinoa in here and half pulled pork, and then you could heat that when you're ready to use it and top it on top of your salad. But only put the things on top of the salad that you want to eat cold, because it's kind of hard to separate them once you put them all together and heat those things up. So I'm gonna grab those. Throw a couple of lids there, and then I'm going to get my cutting board going. Okay. So I'm going to grab my cutting board, my favorite chopping knife, okay, because we're going to do a whole bunch of chopping. So I love this kale that comes already like pre-washed and pre-chopped. It's a super economical way to buy my kale, and it just makes it super easy because I'm looking for things that will be easy and quick as we're doing this food prep. I want things that are going to come together easily for me. And I don't think that the cost is that much more. Honestly, I feel like I get the bag actually holds a lot. And I get a good bang for my buck. So I just go ahead and buy it pre-washed, pre-cooked. Okay, so I am going to fill those containers. And you're welcome to use any sort of greens that you like in this. I find kale is really great to use because I love the longevity that it has. As I'm prepping, one day for basically the rest of my week, I'm looking for things that are going to last throughout the week and still be just as yummy on the last day as they are on the first. So I find things like kale and romaine lettuce to be probably a little bit better, longer lasting than something like spinach and maybe iceberg lettuce. And I just like the texture of it. So that's what I use is the kale. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and maybe we'll just start with the easy things. I like to buy these little segments of oranges that are like made for kids' lunches. They come in these little small containers, and I find sometimes I don't use a full a big can of them. I just use a smaller portion depending on how many portions I'm making that day. So I find that these are super easy. I can buy the package and they'll remain fresh until I work through using all of the portions that I want to use. So I am going to drain the juice off of these. I don't want my salad to be soggy. I want these to add a little bit of moisture and sweetness, but I definitely don't want it to be soggy. So I'm going to drain the juice into the sink here and then just drain those out. So I'm also going to grab my can opener and start with opening my water chestnuts. So They do come as whole peeled water chestnuts in a can, but again, I would just go ahead and save yourself the time and buy the ones that are already pre-sliced. So we're just gonna have to open that up, drain it off, and then we can start throwing those and assembling into our containers. Okay, so from here, I'm just gonna grab a spoon and start assembling. I like to group my toppings on top of my lettuce or my green base, whatever my green base is gonna be. I just kind of like to group them in little sections. I find that, I don't know, it just looks really appealing and stays really nice throughout the whole week. It looks nice and presents well, which is important. I want things to look good when I come around to eat them a couple days later. We eat with our eyes first. I'm a big believer in that. So I want things to be appealing and exciting, even when you're eating it for the third or fourth time that week. So I'm just gonna start here with the oranges, and then I'm going to move on to my water chestnuts there. And we're just making little groupings, and you can just use your hands to kind of just pull them out of the can and put them in little groups on top here. Okay, so I hear something bubbling behind me. And I'm going to turn around and have a look and tend to that quinoa. It looks like it's ready to be turned down. And then I'm going to throw a cover on there. Okay, let me just give it a stir quick. Good. I'm just going to turn that down to medium. Hope it doesn't boil over, but we'll see how it goes. Let me just double check the time. So we want to cook that for about 15 minutes as well. So I'm going to set a timer on that one. And that pork is just about boiling as well, so it needs 15 minutes. So those are right on time. Those things are both gonna be ready at about the same time. So I like to put a little bit of red onion into my kale bowls here. So I'm just gonna slice off a little bit and just dice it up really small. I don't want a ton. I don't want it to be too overpowering, but it does mix nicely in with all of these other flavors. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna group that in little bits. Okay, so some of the things, criteria, I like things in these bowls to add texture. Some of the things that you can think about adding that will add texture or crunch, things that will add good moisture, things that will add good flavor. Um, and then also things that will just add some nice color. I think it's really nice to kind of have a colorful looking bowl. So I love radishes and things. So I'm going to finally slice up a couple of radishes here just to throw those into the mix. Oh, one of the things that I didn't have that I probably will throw in here. Sometimes I feel like I need to limit myself because there's so many things that I want to have in here, but I like to add edamame, and I usually buy it just shelled and in the freezer, and I just pour them out directly onto the bowl just to add a little bit of extra protein into this meal. Okay. Oh, we've got some good color going on here. Again, we're just going to add that in. Okay, so that's just bubbling away in there, doing its thing. So next I'm going to take my mini cucumbers. I guess one of the little tricks that I'll share is The mini cucumbers will last longer in your fridge because I don't know about you, but I find once you cut into a cucumber, so if you buy a big, large one, once you cut into it, I find it really starts to soften and go mushy really quickly. So if you buy the mini ones and just use the whole portion up, um, then you'll have, several days worth of fresh cucumbers to be able to use. So that's my little tip on the cucumber thing. I like to buy the mini ones. Okay, so I'm gonna throw those in. A nice freshness. Okay, so let me grab that edamame while I'm thinking about it. So this is how I buy it. Sometimes I buy it in the shell and eat it as a snack, but when I'm using it like in salads and recipes and stuff, I like it to just be already shelled. So it's basically just like frozen peas. And I'll just pour that out into little clumps in my bowls here. Grab for personal preference, when I put my carrots in this, I like to shred them, to do them on like or grate them, I guess, grate them down. So if you want to just go ahead and grate, this would probably be easier if I had full-size carrots, but all I have right in my fridge is the minis. So I'm just gonna to shred a couple of those. I just kind of like the texture that they add, that way they kind of mix evenly into the whole bowl once you toss it all together. So I'm just gonna try not to grate too much of my fingers. Grater. Yeah, dishwasher, get it out of my way. So again, we're just gonna take little clumps, find a little spot that needs a little color, and drop that down in there. Okay, well, there we go with that. All pulled away. Okay, so now the star of the show is the kimchi. I'm gonna go ahead and open that up. Okay. That's so good. I can hardly wait. Well, it seems like a really strange mix of ingredients, but you're just gonna have to trust me on this one. It comes together beautifully and tastes so yummy. Okay, so let me slide those bowls a little closer so we can have a look at those. I'm realizing I don't think I'm gonna have room in these bowls for that quinoa. So I guess the quinoa for me is gonna be mixed in with my pork and we'll serve that hot this week. Okay, so just taking a peek at those and everything seems to be coming along. So I'm gonna add a healthy scoop of this kimchi because I love it so much. It adds so much flavor to this bowl, and it also adds a lot of moisture to it. So I'm gonna add a nice big healthy healthy scoop and on top of that. And there is a bunch of moisture in here. I'm not super worried about getting too much of the liquid, but I'm also not worried about it getting the kale soggy. Kale is pretty robust. That's again one of the reasons that I enjoy working with it. So the moisture should just sink to the bottom, and you'll be okay. It'll mix in nicely once you toss everything down. So just a couple of nice big heaping teaspoons of that. Let me put in each bowl. Mm. Yeah. Now, on top of that, I'm gonna go ahead and grab, actually, let's sprinkle it. I have some cilantro here. I chopped it. I was using it yesterday, so I still have it all nice and chopped. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add. I really like the freshness of cilantro. I know it's not for everybody, and it's only fair. Nothing in this bowl. If you don't like something that I've got in this bowl, you still can make this bowl and make it your own, and it will still be yummy. You don't have to include all of these things. If there are things that you really don't like to eat, you can omit them, and there's other things that I'm sure you can add in. So just gonna throw that one down, and then I'm gonna do a little cracked pepper over top of this. Put my cilantro away and grab my cracked pepper. And go in with that. Okay, so another thing that would be super yummy in here and that you're welcome to add is diced avocado. That would be a really yummy addition to that. I would not add that at this time. I would add it when you go to eat it. It will turn brown and black and look very unpleasant if it sits in your dish all week. So I would definitely think about adding that after the fact. I'm gonna try and give you a little can see that. I think it looks beautiful. I think it looks like it would if it was coming from a restaurant. And I'm super excited to eat these ones this week. These little bowls that I have, I love because I can fill them up really nice and full. And then each one of them has like a dome lid. So there's still plenty of room once I put my quinoa and my pork in here and snap the lid on. I can shake it all and get a really good mix of everything. I love a salad that can really be mixed so that you're kind of getting a little bit of flavor, each flavor in every single one of your bites that you have. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those lids on, slide those over to the side. Okay. These lids also have a little spot for if you're doing if you needed something that has dressing. This one doesn't need any dressing because the pork will have a little bit of sauce on it. And the kimchi and the Mandarin oranges add enough moisture to it. But if you wanted to, it has a little container for salad dressing that you can snap down into the top and add over top of your salad when you're ready to eat it. So I am just going to go ahead and let those finish, making sure to tidy up as I go, trying to keep my area nice and clean. Try to find the lids. So here we're going to do 4 of those. So cut those containers out. I'm going to get my board a wipe down, but I'll leave that out um, so that I can use it to shred the pork. Okay, so I'll just put the pork on top there. Have a couple of forks. You can find that's usually the easiest way to get it to spread apart if I'm just using the fork to do kind of that shredding. Okay. Oh, it's pretty good. Okay. It's pretty saucy. Okay, so I might actually use a bowl to contain it all and I'll shred it all. So yes, that quinoa looks like it's done. Definitely don't want it to boil dry. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my kitchen timer now. I'm gonna turn off that stove. Grab that fork. Oops. Grab a set of scissors to cut that up. Okay, so it's super hot. So the liquid in there is really hot. Um, Something's going on with my stove. It will start to beep again. Um, yeah, the liquid's going to be very hot, so you want to be very careful as you transfer this out of the plastic or the bag that it's in. So, I'm gonna try and just drain that juice, and I will use that cutting board to shred that into the fork. Okay, a lot of the garbage. That's a spill. It's goodness right there. Okay, so you can see how easily this is just gonna thread apart. Okay, this is the easiest, yummiest meal you probably can make. It really takes very little effort. So again, if you're wanting to be careful about the calories that you're adding to each of these bowls, you probably want to be a little bit sparing in the sauce that you put back in. Most sauces, especially barbecue sauces and stuff like that, have a lot of sugar in them. So if you're trying to watch that, you'll probably want to go light on how much sauce you put back in, and that's probably what I'm going to do here. Okay, so I'm going to shred this up. I'm going to try to remove some of the pieces that look really super fat. Okay, again, just trying to be careful, looking kind of for a little bit more of a lean protein source here than something that's super fatty. So just going to spread that up a little bit, and then I'm going to just leave that for a second. I'm probably going to put my quinoa down into my bowl first. Now, what do I need? Ah, okay. Well, quinoa's good and cooked and ready. You can see how quickly that meal has come together. I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. This is such a yummy one. So I'm just going to give that a stir to kind of fluff it up, make sure all the moisture is taken out and looks like it's ready to go. So just going to go into my containers, throw a generous scoop in. I'm just going to divide this evenly amongst the four. These will probably be my dinners for the week, so I want them to be pretty calorie dense. If it was, I usually tend to go a little bit lighter in my lunches, so we'll probably do a little bit less. I know the quinoa is really healthy for you and it's really good, but it also has quite a good protein in it. So I I tend to watch and just be sparing. Don't want to eat super calorie dense meals every single time that I eat. So if I'm looking to keep it heavier or lighter, controlling the amount of quinoa that goes into each. It's a little bit. Okay, so I have my four containers with my quinoa separated out into there, and I'm just going to go ahead and put some of that forward to complement it. Okay, I'll just set that on the side of each. And just trying to evenly disperse it. It's the four dishes. Okay. Mm, mm. The dog is sitting here waiting patiently for me to give her the little batty bit. I'll put the cutting board. So she'll have to wait till we're done. And then she can have those things. Okay, so I'm gonna be a little bit careful with how much of the barbecue sauce that I put down in. It's not only the barbecue sauce, but a lot of the fatty solids kind of melt down as we boil that. So I just want to be careful. I want some of that flavor to come back in, but again, I don't want it to be all calorie laden. So what I'm going to do is I'm just actually going to take a good tablespoon and just kind of put that over top of each. I feel like that's probably sufficient, so it's not like super super saucy. Okay. feel like that looks like ample for that. So I'll set that over to the side here as well. And we'll just try and give you a little glimpse. So that's what those look like. You can see the pulled pork is on the one side and the quinoa is on the other. So I'm going to let those actually cool a little bit. And then I'm going to put lids on those and put them into the fridge. And when I head off to go to work, I'm going to take a little container like that, put that in the fridge at work. I can heat this in the microwave before tossing it in with the salad and mixing everything all together. And I guarantee you are not going to be disappointed with this meal. It's super yummy, and like I said, there's lots of different flavors and textures that I think you're really going to enjoy. So please go ahead and give this one a try and let me know what you think. And as always, guys, happy eating.